Good morning everyone, welcome back to another Persona 5 Animax video. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the newest released character, Barry, that is just released on China a couple days ago, and will be coming to Taiwan and Korea on Wednesday next week. And unfortunately for global, we're probably looking 13 to 14 months, I would imagine. If we're lucky, hopefully a year. I guess if we're lucky. But huge shout out to Najox for releasing this Google Drive. And it will be linked down below, but what this Google Drive does is it goes through every single character in the game, what their kit does, as well as going over the awarenesses. So huge shout out to that man and all the other collaborators on that. Barry is the newest single target DPS character in the game, and her entire kit revolves around stacking up DOT, so damage over time effects, and then popping them with her highlights. So I like to think of her, if you ever played Honkai Star Rail, she's kind of like Kafka, where Kafka's entire gimmick was she wanted teammates with DOT, put them on the enemy, and then she would pop them with one of her abilities. And I kind of see Barry doing the same thing. So I'm really excited to see what future characters are coming out, because currently the only DOT character we have in the game is Mesa. Mesa is the only character that really has a very large emphasis on a DOT, and his is Bleed. We also have some other ones such as Burn, but between Barry and Mesa, these are the only two characters with huge emphasis on DOTs. So everything about Barry is everything she's trying to do is just trying to stack up hatred up to 10 times or 15 times if you have, as we'll talk about soon, A6. And then going over abilities, her first one is Neck Breaking Crimson. Deal curse damage to a foe equal to 129% of her attack and inflict 2 hatred stacks on the target. And when the target is above 70% current HP, heavily increase skill damage by 2%. And if this skill kills the target, activate this skill again. I really like the fact that they're bringing in these kind of abilities, because I want to compare, I really want to compare Barry to someone of like Makoto. So Makoto is also single target DPS. He's currently the best one, without really thinking about Barry. But before Barry, he is the best single target DPS. But my whole problem with him is if there was any other enemies on the field besides one big boss monster, it kind of sucks trying to kill the other enemies, because he could only do one single target at a time, and then 2 if you're using his Thurgy. And that was kind of like my biggest problem with him is trying to kill any sort of ad base and then killing a big boss. But Ichigo, on the bright side, Barry, she can now essentially, if she one-shots the ads, so she can one-shot the ad, one-shot another ad, and then also go in again and attack the main boss. So she can kill both ads and then attack the boss to start stacking up the hatred all on one turn, which I think is insane. And then her next one is, so that's her skill 1. Her skill 2 is Blood Rose Kiss. Deal curse damage to one foe equal to 93% of attack and inflict 4 hatred stacks. So this is the major hatred stack builder. But then as we go down here, its execution time is now. Deal curse damage to one foe equal to 221.6% of attack, plus hatred stacks times 11.7% of attack. So at A0, where she can stack it up 10 times, that's an additional 111 basically 112% attack. And when it is max stacks, additionally deal curse damage to one foe to 103%. So this right here is almost 500% attack on one. And then her biggest thing that I love about her, and I think where she's going to be a DOT, and her biggest ability where she is the DOT queen, and where I'm talking about why I see her as a Kafka-esque character, because of the fact that she can pop all DOTs on the target with her highlight, which is deal curse damage to one foe equal to 457.1% of attack, and make hatred able to deal critical. So hatred can now critically strike for 3 turns, and immediately triggers all instances of DOT on the target. And this is where I'm saying she works really well with Mesa, because she'll have 10 stacks of hatred, and Mesa will have 10 stacks of bleed on the target. and then that'll deal all of it. So all those will trigger on the target, and then dealing dot damage. And on top of that, she will deal hatred damage twice. So you have 10 stacks. It'll do not once but twice the attack, which is insane. And then I'm gonna skip her. And then I'm going to skip her to passive abilities for right now and go to her A0. Her A0, if thou indulge in the poison of love, Ichigo will gain 1 stack of covet after using Neckbreaking Crimson, which is her first ability. And then she'll also gain 1 stack of covet each time she uses her highlight, which has a cap of 3 stacks and will trigger the following effects based off of stacks. At 1 stack, each stack of hatred will increase damage taken by 2.5% for the enemy. So at A0, she will also increase damage taken of the enemy by 2.5% per stack, which is 25% at 10 stacks. And then 2 stacks, increase crit rate by 15%. And additionally, all of her persona skill damage is seen as DOT damage. So now all of her other abilities are now seen as DOT. And then at 3 stacks, increase dot damage dealt by 25%. So now at 3 stacks, all of her abilities are dealing 25% more damage, as well as when we're looking at her 2 passives, her reliance. When Ichigo is on the field, increase all allies dot damage by 15%. So she is giving 25% increased damage, just general increase right here. And then she's dealing another 25% increased dot damage here, plus an additional 15% dot damage here. So that's 15, 40, 65% damage. So all of her abilities are doing 65% more damage just at 3 stacks of covet. And then her other passive ability, increase attack by 15% for each covet stack. So at A0, she's getting 45% increased attack just off rip for having 3 stacks. And then her A1 decreases foes defense by 3% for each hatred stack. When using a persona skill, inflict 1 hatred stack on the target more. So now her skill 1 is doing 3. So if you go A1, you're now getting 3 stacks of hatred here and then 5 stacks of hatred here. So A1 is absolutely I would say as a free-to-play player, you would probably honestly want to go for A1 if you can, because the defense down is going to be massive for anyone on the field, and she's going to work really well with it. But then A2, if thou allow delusions to cluster, at the start of battle, gain 1 covet stack and increase maximum covet stack to 5, and gain the following boost effect based on covet stacks. So at 4 stacks, increase crit damage by 36%. So now she's getting the 15% crit rate and 36% crit damage. And at 5 stacks, when Ichigo takes fatal damage, enter near death and gain 4 fanatic delusion stacks, which makes it so she cannot drop below 1 HP. When in near death, spend 1 fanatic delusion after each ally takes action, and faint after spending all fanatic delusion stacks. So I'm starting to think, with how many revives or last stand abilities are they're boosting the game, I think they're going to start making one-shot mechanics, is what it feels like, where the enemy will just one-shot at one of your allies, because that's kind of what it feels like with how many abilities they're bringing out like this. Okay, and then at A3, if thou thinks pleading works, okay, and then A3 is just her general abilities, plus 3 levels on them. But then A4, if thou loves accumulates endlessly. After using highlight, permanently increase attack by 6% up to 5 stacks. So A4 is just the general. After using her highlight a bunch of times, she'll be giving up to 30% additional attack. A5 is another skill level increase. And then at A6, if thou discover the other me, it increases the maximum hatred stack to 15, and when cover reaches a certain stack, gain the following effects. At 1 stack, after using Neckbreaking Crimson, additionally use Neckbreaking Crimson again. At 2 stacks is Blood Rose, do it again, and then so skill 3, do it again, and then stack 4, do it again. Do her highlight once again. Where all of these are once per battle. But the biggest one I'm gonna point out is at 4 stacks. When she uses her highlights, she'll do her highlight once again, but it doesn't spend the highlight energy, and it doesn't affect the highlight cooldown. So that means you're essentially able to do her highlight twice, which means you can now burst 15 hatred stacks, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in 1 turn on the target. So you're dealing all of this damage. So at level 70, you're doing at 18% of her attack. So 180 plus an extra 5 at 18%, 50, 90%. Oh my god. 270% of her attack 4 times. And that's just, and that's only including hatred. We're not even talking about if we're also including Mace's bleed as well, where you can also do that. Oh my goodness. And then everything else, so now she's able to get 75% additional attack right off rip, as well as the fact she is looking absolutely disgusting. And I'm saying this isn't even her final form of where we're looking at, because I'm thinking they're going to be bringing out new dot characters, because I feel like it doesn't make sense for you to have someone emphasis on this much on DOT and only having 2 dot characters, really. Because I'm not really going to count the whole burn right now, because that one doesn't feel as massive as compared to looking at Mace's bleed as well as her hatred stacks. But I want to tell you right now, she is going to be I'm really considering that, but I'm going to tell you right now, she is looking to be a meta pick, and if you don't pick her up, I think you're going to miss out, because they're going to release more and more unique DOT characters. 100%. And then everything, she is definitely a character that when she comes to global, I'm going to A6 and grab her weapon, because she is going to be absolutely disgusting, I'm showing you right now. And then when thinking of some teammates who can work with her, I would say Mesa could absolutely work with her, or any other future DOT units, because of being able to proc DOT, as well as not using Mesa. You could also use someone like Howler, which is probably I will be using, because I don't have Mesa currently on my account, just because it's more defense decrease. She's more of a single target debuffer. And then for her main supporting character, though, I would probably do Cord, just because of the fact that of her third ability, Finale Range Unleashed, because it just makes it so that her she can pop her highlight once again in a turn. So in one turn, Barry could honestly ult 3 times at ace, for example, at A6. If you have A6 with Cord, you're now making Barry do ult her highlight 3 times in a single ability, or else you're just doing it twice. Because once with using Barry doing it, and then once again with Cord's highlight, making her use her highlight. And then lastly for Navigator, I would probably honestly, I'm thinking Anj, just because of the fact that with her Myriad Song, which makes it so that a ally will do a additional action, and with the extra action you can stack up her hatred that much quicker, and getting up her hatred stacks to maximum is probably the most important thing in my mind, because more DOT, more damage for her, and depending on if you do awareness or not, it's just a massive damage increase all around. And with that, I think we'll stop the video there. I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day, or have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.